Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we take a look at the astrological energies from March 12th until March 19th as eclipse season is coming in with a lot of dynamic changes. We also have Venus still in retrograde and Mercury stationing retrograde March 14th or 15th, depending on your time zone. Also this week, the Sun in Pisces is making conjunctions to Saturn in Pisces, the North Node in Pisces, and Neptune in Pisces. So we'll discuss that more in today's show, but just note that there are basically two parts of your chart that are coming up in a big way this week around closures, pruning, changes, endings. And that's because the Virgo lunar eclipse, which we'll discuss, is working with that South Node in Virgo. And then you also have this focus on Pisces planets, which is also about what is being phased out and unwinding in order to prepare for the new creations that emerge in Aries season. So it's quite an interesting dance right now because you could find that you are looking to balance yourself and your energies more intentionally, that there are things you need to take care of. You have to get it done. You have to produce, focus, stay on top of things. And yet over in the other areas of your life, you could just feel exhausted, fatigue, overwhelm, ready to do less and to step away from all of the big energies unfolding in the world. So I'm going to talk about the overarching energies right now, and then I'll go into the specifics of what is occurring on each day with the transiting aspects. So this week we're going to have double retrogrades with Venus retrograde in Aries, as we've discussed many times, and then Mercury stationing retrograde at 9 degrees, 35 minutes of Aries on March 15th at 2:45 a.m. Eastern Time. And so double retrogrades can feel like twice the spice or double the trouble. And it means it's very important right now to go slower, to not rush ahead and be aware of what is coming up for you to intentionally understand about yourself. And that's because both retrogrades are happening in Aries, the very beginning of Aries, that first decan of Aries. And it's understanding that what you want to create is being reformed at this time. The double retrogrades could even feel like you're doing twice the work, or you have more in front of you that you're being guided to understand and work with. A retrograde Venus is clearing out what you don't like. A retrograde Mercury is double checking all information, details, sources, and communications. And because this is happening in the same area of your chart where you have that first decan of Aries, 9 degrees to 0 degrees of Aries, this is where your life could be requiring more of your attention right now. You could find yourself sitting with things to contemplate, understand, and the energy isn't meant to move outwards just yet. The retrograde is internalizing. It's that review and sitting with parts of yourself that you're meant to fully understand and see. You look in the mirror and you see it more accurately and more honestly. And that double retrograde really begins this weekend, right on the heels of the Virgo lunar eclipse. So this is where you should also adjust your expectations accordingly, because there can be more breakdowns in communications. Things don't go as planned. There are shifts that you didn't anticipate. There can be literal breakdowns in equipment, devices, appliances, and what you use in your day-to-day world that you've come to rely upon. You might realize it isn't adapting to these new, faster incoming energies. You might realize, wow, this device is really outdated, or I need to replace a computer or an appliance during the retrograde phase here, because breakdowns are part of the themes with not only the Virgo lunar eclipse, but the double retrograde. Now, I just did a separate podcast episode for you on March 10th discussing Mercury retrograde and the significance of it as Mercury travels alongside Venus retrograde. They are only 2 to 4 degrees apart. So they are basically in conjunction, although it's not an exact conjunction. They're traveling together throughout this full retrograde journey. And that Venus energy brings in, do I really want this? Do I really like this? Does it resonate with me? What am I ready to do differently? Where can I approach what I want to create or experience in a new way? And there's time during the retrograde to sit with that and be aware of, well, maybe I could do this, or maybe I could try that. There could be a playfulness with the retrograde. There could be a sense of, well, let me not rush forward to figure it out just yet. Let me just see what comes up as I marinate in the possibilities and trust the journey of the double retrograde. As I mentioned, the Virgo lunar eclipse is occurring around the same time that Mercury retrograde begins. So let's discuss that lunar eclipse a bit more. The Virgo lunar eclipse occurs at 23 degrees, 57 minutes of Virgo. So basically near that 24 degree mark. It's exact at 2:55 a.m. Eastern Time on March 14th. And 24 hours later is when Mercury stations retrograde. Mercury is one of the co-rulers of Virgo. It has long been associated with ruling Virgo, but in recent years there has been an increasing affinity between Chiron and Virgo. So Chiron is also seen as a co-ruler of Virgo now. This eclipse is happening again at 24 degrees of Virgo, which is important to note because it means that this eclipse, which has the moon conjunct the south node at 27 degrees of Virgo, those two lunar energies are opposing a stellium of planets in Pisces. This is why there's two areas of your life that are both calling for endings, completions, and changes, but with a different intention. The Virgo energy is asking you to look at what is no longer serving you, what is no longer good for you. It's not healthy, it's not supportive, it's not providing you with the answers you seek or the information you need. Virgo is the beautiful synergy between the body and the mind, where we want to improve both. We want to be stronger, healthier, more embodied with our consciousness physically. And then the mental energy of Virgo is the one that seeks solutions, understandings, and specifics. Virgo is methodical, analytical, and assesses what is worth your time and energy and what's not. And so with the Virgo lunar eclipse, there's an understanding here of what is done for you because it's not working. It's not paying off. You're not happy with the results, and it's time for changes on a daily level, which is the moon. And so the moon is showing you where you're unsatisfied. And keep in mind, Virgo, being a specific energy, can hyper-focus on the details and specifics to the point where there can be pettiness, criticism, discontent, guilt, and a stressed out mind. So that's what this Virgo lunar eclipse could be revealing, is how certain matters are affecting your daily well-being and health. And now it's time to make changes, to be willing to make changes, and to know that there are other solutions possible. Then on the opposite side of the astrology wheel, we have a lineup of planets in Pisces: the Sun, Saturn, North Node, and Neptune, all in these final degrees of Pisces, also signaling that this eclipse is bringing about big transitions that we've already been emotionally sensing and feeling. And so how do you deal with that? How do you let go of things that are out of your control, that maybe you feel like, I'm not choosing this, but it's happening anyways? And how are you adapting to the bigger world fluctuations that are unfolding and allowing a grand cycle to move through you, staying more detached, more trusting of a process, and in surrender that you could be fighting. Honestly, you can be fighting this. You can feel like, I don't want to let go. I don't want this change. I don't want this shift to occur, whatever it might be for you, but it is happening whether you like it or not. And so it's getting ourselves on board in all manners of our energy fields to accept what is. Where Virgo rules the body and the mind, Pisces is about our emotional, spiritual state, our intuition, what we're picking up on in the bigger spectrum of energies, how it is affecting us. And you might realize you've absorbed too much or you've taken on too much. And this would be a time to then step back and take care of yourself, which could mean more rest, more detachment, being offline for your own well-being. There could also be a sense that you're processing things as they are unfolding and you're figuring out what your process is. Now, the Pisces energies, because there are 4 planets and points in Pisces, means that this energy is really strong. Even though it's a Virgo lunar eclipse, lunar being the fullness of the emotional self, it comes back to how you process that and deal with grief, sadness, letting go, maybe big endings in life chapters, soul growth areas, things that you're realizing no longer resonate. They're not for your best and highest good. And yet it's necessary to do the work, Saturn in Pisces, around completions, forgiveness, karmic closures, and being in whatever you're feeling, even if it's uncomfortable at times. Now, I feel that the bigger picture here, especially when we're talking about these 2 mutable signs, Virgo and Pisces are mutable signs. So are Gemini and Sagittarius energies. Each of the mutable signs, especially at these final degrees in the last decan, is a time of preparation for the new season that begins with the next cardinal sign. So we're in a time of purging and pruning, allowing a season to end so that the next season can arrive and you can welcome it accordingly. But with these eclipse energies, it's occurring as there are more world changes that will happen over the next 6 months especially. So the Virgo lunar eclipse is the beginning point of a new cycle, a timeline shift that will unfold for a minimum of 6 months. So this is helping you prepare for whatever is coming through in your chart at 24 degrees of Virgo. The changes happen over the next 6 months. So it might not be that you have something change on Friday, Saturday, or this weekend, but it comes through with this Virgo lunar eclipse cycle that will especially last into September. And by September, the sun will be in Virgo and the sun will move across this lunar eclipse point and highlight what has evolved and changed for you because of this eclipse. So look at it as a 6-month journey of changes unfolding, specifically where you have 24 degrees of Virgo in your chart. After the eclipse is exact, then the sun will make an exact sextile to Uranus in Taurus at 24 degrees on March 14th. So that happens right after the eclipse is when it's exact. But Uranus in Taurus at 24 degrees is an important factor in this particular eclipse energy. So that Uranus energy is trining the moon in Virgo and sextiling the sun in Pisces, bringing about faster realizations of what you can do next. Uranus in Taurus is connecting us to our resources, our values, what you want, what you own. You're understanding more of what matters to you and what you want in your space, what you want to build your physical environment based on. And that Taurus energy goes into, well, this is what I enjoy. This is what brings me peace and makes me feel good. This is what I want in my surroundings that lifts me up. This is how I am creating a life that matters to me. And so even though this particular eclipse has a lot of shifts and changes, and we're moving through these big endings in Pisces, Uranus and Taurus brings in the new, brings in the exciting revelations, the shocking developments, helps you connect the dots and say, okay, if this is leaving, look over here and this is arriving. This is a better fit. In fact, I love this even more. This is supportive here, and it's going to give you some options to work with. And it's going to also give you more inspiration to create what you can do, what you can focus on, even if there are other things that can feel like they are leaving and no longer working, regardless of what you do. So that Uranus in Taurus is going to help you pivot and help you understand, okay, yes, here's the next option. I'm going to do this instead. And in fact, you might be surprised at how it's in better alignment for you as well. I have a chart for you on YouTube discussing this Virgo lunar eclipse even more. So please check that out. I don't want to repeat myself with what I share in that video, but I do go into some more information and specifics that might be valuable for you. So again, that's over on my YouTube channel. Now, moving ahead, after this Virgo lunar eclipse occurs and Mercury stations retrograde on March 14th or 15th, depending on your time zone, I do want to highlight yet again that Mercury stationing retrograde is occurring at the same degree point as the upcoming Aries solar eclipse on March 29th. So this is where there could be information arriving this weekend that gives you a heads up around the changes that are further unfolding, and also where things aren't going as planned, quote unquote. This is where there can be more delays, cancellations, retractions, and false starts. When Mercury stations retrograde, the information is louder, the messages are stronger, and it's highlighting a theme that's also going to be showing up later in the month because it's at that Aries solar eclipse point. So the new starts were going to be coming with the Aries solar eclipse, which is a new moon. And it's asking us to stay flexible and adaptable, to not be overly committed or overly focused on how something needs to be, because it will look different and it will change. It can be trickier to make plans that you can rely upon. Give yourself more time to get to a place, especially if traffic is a concern. Leave more time for yourself to complete tasks and get things taken care of. There can be more anger with a Mercury retrograde in Aries because the desire to move quickly is not going to unfold easily. So there can be more eruptions, frustration, even more accidents due to that impulsivity or people being pissed off that things don't go their way. So watch out for the hotheads and expect delays. Now let's talk about the Sun in Pisces, making these important conjunctions to Saturn in Pisces, North Node in Pisces, and Neptune in Pisces. This energy is highlighted from March 12th until March 19th, and then the Sun enters Aries on March 20th at 5:01 a.m. Eastern Time. So we're closing out Pisces energies with a strong focus on what you have been healing, working through, and learning ever since 2011. Now, why is that? Well, the Sun in Pisces is ruled by Neptune, and Neptune is now at that final anaretic degree of Pisces, which is also the very end of the full zodiac wheel. Neptune is here signaling how far you've come since Neptune first entered Pisces in 2011. So I know it can take a minute to think back and be like, what was going on in my life then? What was happening? And you might have now a broader perspective and understanding of how much you've advanced on more of your ascension journey, how much your energy has healed and changed, even looking at all the different modalities you've studied or practiced, what you've come to understand about the power of energy in our daily lives and how it affects you. Maybe you're noticing how your intuition has increased, how you've become more psychic, more energetically aware. Since 2011, you can also assess, how have I handled my life transitions and changes? How have I processed them fully or not? Because Pisces is the full completion of an experience, and how you've been able to deal with life changes and transitions. Things, again, that have happened that you didn't choose necessarily, but that's how it played out, or that's how it showed up. And then you had to move through that closing cycle, experiencing the 5 stages of grief, perhaps, as Elizabeth Kubler-Ross teaches. I recommend checking out those 5 stages of grief if that would assist you with anything at this time, because we have such a strong emphasis on these Pisces energies. As humans, we are energetically designed to have endings and closures. We're designed to complete chapters in our lives in order to start fresh and start new, which is the promise of Aries archetypal energies in the zodiac wheel. And yet we're moving through a lot of things right now that we are feeling and sensing. You could feel hypersensitive this week, especially. You could feel that you're picking up on a lot and that you're holding a lot more than you ever realized. If so, it is important to responsibly process that and let it go to ensure that you're not taking on too much. Pisces energy is not only about our energetic, intuitive, and emotional selves, but it's how all of that affects our mental health and how it creates a different perspective on the world, and it shifts what we see and perceive. That can be either uplifting, encouraging, and hopeful, or could be on the other end of the spectrum and be depressing, confusing, draining, and emotionally difficult. This is part of the ultimate choice point that the Pisces energy directs us to. If you want to go higher in the human experience, there will need to be some type of spiritual perspective that lifts you up to see things in a whole new realm. And this is where the Pisces energy wants you to connect with whatever gives you hope and trust in the future, what gives you that reconnection to your higher self and your soul's wisdom that helps you understand everyone's on their own soul journey. Everyone is here experiencing this physical world, and everyone has their own level of consciousness, their own energies with karmic imprints, soul lessons, soul groups, family patterns, energetic lineage, soul experiences. Each person is here moving through these energies on their own timeline based on their own soul growth trajectory and how they learn and how they move through all these various energies. So one of the big questions to ponder this week is, what spiritual perspective do you turn to as needed, as often as possible, that helps you connect to your higher self? What do you do and practice that elevates your energy, supports your detachment as needed, so that you can continue forward knowing that everything changes, everything shifts, and that everything is temporary? We are spiritual beings having a human experience, as the saying goes. And what supports you in your human experience and also strengthens your connection to your spiritual self? So again, this can be something to connect to and contemplate over this next week, as that Sun in Pisces is conjunct Saturn, the North Node, and Neptune in Pisces. And also this conjunction with the Sun in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces is happening for the very last time in our lives. And that's why it's also such a big deal. This is a graduation. This is a completion of something big, perhaps. This is where you are being celebrated in the higher realms, recognized and understood for everything you've had to move through that was challenging, painful, horrible, depleting, whatever the case may be. But for many souls, you came here in this lifetime to handle something that was unfinished in previous lifetimes. And you raised your hand before incarnating to say, I'm going to handle that in this lifetime. I'm going to complete it. I'm going to master it. I'm going to heal it. I'm going to be the badass that I am. And it's going to be over, and I'm going to feel not only that relief, peace, and power for completing it, but I also know I will be celebrated. And through the energetic dynamics of divine timing, there will be some type of confirmation that arrives for you around what you have completed, of what you have tackled during this Neptune in Pisces journey from the past 14 years. The universe will bring forth that next level experience, creation, connection, manifestation, whatever it might be, that shows you all your work has paid off. All your efforts are being rewarded as you begin again in the new cycles that start in Aries. So you might have some realizations here about not only how far you've come, but what is truly over and complete for you. And you'll know that because you are neutral. You have no energetic connection, no response, no attachment, no cares. There's something that no longer affects you at any level of your being. Do you ever have that experience where when you let go of something, a job, a person, a relationship, project, whatever, it's done and gone, and you're like, that's just dead to me. It's not even on my radar. That's what this energy is about. And those are the shifts we're feeling. Now, at the same time, we have a lot of new frequencies arriving. And so you might be surprised at the turnover effect, meaning something is so complete and gone that it's not even on your mind, and all the new is. All the new that's arriving and coming in is also giving you inspiration for creation and new possibilities. Now, of course, it depends on each person's journey and how far you've been through a process, whatever it might be. But some people are going to be feeling the new energy more strongly this week as well. The Sun is conjunct Saturn in Pisces at 22 degrees on March 12th. This is a realization around what you need to let go of and or what you need to handle. There's always responsibility with Saturn. There's things we need to tend to and take care of. And if you have ignored it, pushed it away, procrastinated, or rejected, it's going to come back in front of you. And Saturn says you need to take care of this, complete it, and be responsible. It could be time consuming, since Saturn is about the time it takes to get something done. And it can even take longer than expected when Saturn is in Pisces, but it's important. And Saturn does not let you off the hook. So just stay mindful of that the middle of the week. Then the Sun brings its bright light to a conjunction with that North Node in Pisces at 27 degrees on March 17th. And this is a conjunction that lifts you up, that gives you more hope and a sense of what's possible next. This is that energy I was mentioning around the feeling of a graduation and a sense of you did it. Here's a pat on the back. Here's your gold star. And that North Node also opens up a new fated development, a destined path, something that you're meant to move towards in this energy. You could feel heightened intuitive messages, new inspirations arriving for what you want to create, develop, or manifest. This uplifting energy could be a surprise through divine timing or even a delayed manifestation. And that is a possibility here in these late degrees of Pisces with the Sun arriving, bringing in that warmth and consciousness, bringing in something that's encouraging as well. So a delayed manifestation can absolutely come through when the Sun is conjunct the North Node on March 17th. Then the Sun moves ahead, and March 19th is a pivotal day where the Sun makes its final conjunction in our lifetime to Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees, the very, very last degree of the full zodiac wheel. Here we have one of our outermost planets at this degree point working with the Sun, and there are big closures here, big endings occurring around energies on our planet. Now, I realize as I say this, people are seeking validation in the physical world for these endings that we're talking about, because that's a big theme here in 2025. Now, you might be experiencing them or seeing them through some of the mainstream developments, announcements, and changes that are coming about. But understand that the way that Neptune and Pisces moves is that it's very slow. It's very slow. And in fact, Neptune will return to 29 degrees of Pisces again on October 22nd. And that will bring about the next wave of removal, completions, and endings, as that will be the final phase of Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces. Again, that's October 22nd until January 25th, 2026. So we will have a few more months of the final scrubbing and frequency shifts that Neptune rules. But with the Sun conjunct Neptune, that brings more emphasis. It's shining a spotlight on those endings, and you might have a very clear, intuitive understanding. This part of my life is changing forever. This part of my life is closing out. I can feel it, I can sense it, even if I don't see it yet, but I know it's happening. And here is your soul giving you a heads up that this 29 degrees of Pisces signals ultimately what you've outgrown and how your energy doesn't connect to it, even if other parts of yourself might be holding on or grasping onto it. Your intuition is telling you this is closing out. And I feel that when we get these messages, not only is it a divine understanding of what we do need to change, but now you have prep time to make the necessary changes and take next steps. So if you're feeling a heads up that something is shifting in where you live or in your work or in a connection, a friendship, if you're getting an understanding that, you know what, I can feel this is fading out. At some level of my being, I can sense this energy shift. Trust that. Trust it and understand that this is how the universe works with us, especially as we become more intuitive and more energetically aware. When we hold less density, less resistance, less karma, and less emotional baggage in our energy systems, we learn that energy works very fast and direct. It's very clear. It's like a very clear arrow. It comes through and gives you a message and an understanding, and you can feel and sense this is accurate. This is true. I get what's being said here. I understand the message that's coming through. That is one thing to be very aware of this week, is that Spirit is giving you intuitive guidance around what is closing out in your life. And of course, it's up to you on whether you accept it or trust it, but consider it a heads up, because when Neptune returns to 29 degrees of Pisces here, again, late October to January of next year, that's when the final clearing out and closures will also show up. So use this as a beautiful opportunity to further trust your intuition, to further work with Spirit, and to see how beautifully and divinely guided you are through benevolent forces that love you and support you. The more silent and receptive you can be this week, the more it will pay off. The more you're willing to hear what your intuition is saying and where it's guiding you towards, the more you're going to be in flow with the bigger energies of this cycle. And it's possible you might even feel more comfort and trust that you're not doing it alone. The world as we know it is going to be changing in pivotal ways throughout this year. What we thought would stay or what we thought was certain is not the case. What we always relied upon is going to be shifting. And so this brings up a lot of our fears. This can bring up our survival programming and whether we adapt to change or resist it. I know I've mentioned before that there are parts of our world that are fading away, and we're going to look back and be like, wow, something about that was the good old days, or we didn't even know what we had at the time. So the more that we can incorporate gratitude and appreciation into our lives now, the more that we're going to also be tuned in to the present moment and what it offers you. And on that note, over this last weekend, I released 4 free guided meditations that you are welcome to connect with and enjoy. They are called Soul Bliss Guided Meditations. They are on my website, and they're just designed to help you listen to your energy, clear your energy, reset yourself, and remain in that intentional connection to your soul during these big world changes. And another thing I wanted to mention once again is that if you are feeling creative and inspired, you want to write a book and you want to express yourself, your wisdom, or share your journey, I highly recommend an online masterclass being taught by Hillary Smith. It's called Words That Teach, Words That Heal, Secrets of Self-Help and Spirituality Writing. It is a live 4-week online course that will begin in April 8th. The early bird pricing goes until March 15th, and it could be a really beneficial and supportive next step for sharing your message and understanding more about becoming an author. I'll put the link below the podcast here if you want to check out that online course. Hillary is excellent. I've had the pleasure of working with her on my own books, and I know she can give you great advice for any of your own creative writings. Also, one more thing to share with you is that I'll be doing my next online astrology gathering on April 11th, where we will talk about the energies of April and what is going on in your astrology chart. The March event was fantastic. You can still check that out too. You can still watch the replay from the March astrology gathering, where it was wonderful to connect with you, to have the face-to-face interactions, to answer your questions, and spend time together. So feel free to check out the March gathering, or be sure to sign up for the upcoming April gathering. Again, it's on Friday, April 11th. It's noon Eastern time, but be sure to double check your time zone, because I know that various countries are shifting their clocks with the daylight savings time coming into effect. So wishing you a beautiful final week of Pisces season here as we close out some big things in our lives and understand the spiritual purpose of it all, understanding what you've grown through, what has really supported you, especially at a soul level, and to know how beautifully and divinely guided you are during these big energy transitions. I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode. And as always, thank you so much for joining me. You can connect with more of my astrology courses and programs over at mollymccord.online. Be sure to check out my YouTube channel, where you will find more about the Virgo lunar eclipse, as well as on-camera teachings of this week's energies. Take good care, and I will see you back here soon.